I'd like to thank all our witnesses. I'm going to withhold my questioning at this time and let Mr. Turner, gentleman from Ohio, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I greatly appreciate that. I'm under a time constraint, having to return back to my district, and I greatly appreciate the chairman doing that. Tuesday, I had the opportunity to talk to Secretary Hagel about the Ebola mission, and I believe that he takes this very serious, and he's very concerned both about the effects on our men and women in uniform and also on the effects of protecting the American public. I am very concerned about the protocols of protecting the American public, and since I only get one question, my question is going to be about that, although I too am very concerned, as all the American public is, about the protection of our men and women in uniform. I'm very skeptical of the DoD protocols, and I think the American public is very skeptical. We've had basically two threats: one, Ebola coming here, or two, individuals who've been exposed to Ebola falling ill to Ebola. We've had 4 cases. 2 came here. 2 were a result of people being exposed to Ebola here and then falling ill. 3 were healthcare providers. Now, the American public is very concerned that individuals who've been exposed to the Ebola virus have had significant public access after being exposed. This is during a period while they were falling ill to Ebola. Now, on October 10th, Ebola came to visit Ohio. Amber Vinson traveled from Dallas, Texas to Cleveland. While she was in Cleveland, she visited local businesses. Of course, she flew on a flight there. Almost 300 people had contact with her while she was falling ill to Ebola. Fortunately, Ohio doesn't have a report at this time of a case of Ebola, but on October 20th, the entire Ohio congressional delegation, on a bipartisan basis, sent a letter to the CDC challenging their protocols with respect to people who have been known to have been exposed to Ebola. Now, we all know the stories: trying on wedding dresses, flying, going on a cruise, bowling, right away. Although some of these issues are personal responsibility, they do go to the issue of protocols, and if you look at the October 10th Department of Defense guidelines, in paragraph 4, it says that a commander has authority, which means they don't have to, quarantine someone up to 10 days if they're concerned about an individual who's been exposed. Now, we all know that the doctor in New York fell ill apparently after 11 days. And then it goes on to say that no known exposure, and that doesn't mean they weren't exposed, it means no known exposure, that there's a 21-day monitoring period, but it suggests that the individuals return to routine daily activities. Well, those routine daily activities would include going on cruises, flying, wearing wedding dresses, bowling, and riding the subway. So I think I'm very concerned, as the American public is, as the multiplier effect of the contacts that could occur in the public. And as we're learning, as we've looked at in light of what has happened, I believe that both the CDC rules and perhaps the DoD guidance should be revised. General, in light of what we now know and what we're seeing in our concerns of the multiplier effect, again, of 3 healthcare providers who had significant public contact while falling ill to the Ebola virus, do you believe that this October 10th DoD guidance should be revised? And Mr. Lumpkin, I'd like your answer to.
I think the first thing I'd like to say is to make sure, as I mentioned in my opening statement, is that we at DoD in West Africa are not doing direct patient care. So our operations and in support of USAID are focused on those lines of effort of the command and control, the logistics.
But Mr. Lumpkin, as you know, that does not mean that no one is going to be exposed to the virus. I mean, I understand what you're saying about the distinction between healthcare providers and non-healthcare providers, but the gentleman who flew here first, patient 1 in the United States, was not a healthcare provider either.
No. But I want to make sure that you understand is that because we have different categories of risk, and I'd like to turn it over to my joint staff colleague here to explain the risk categories and the mitigation strategies with each one of them.
Mr. Turner, thank you for the thank you for the question. The protocols that we've put in place, we think, exceed the CDC standard. As you mentioned, we will be testing personnel twice a day while they are deployed, take their temperature, and to ensure that that if they were exposed and they did become infected, we could isolate them effectively. The 0 to 10 day timeline that you discussed is the timeline that will take place in country. commanders will have the authority to remove their personnel.
But General, as we already know from the doctor in New York, he indicated, if the news reports are correct, that his symptoms occurred at 11 days. So
Yes,
isn't your 10 days too short?
Yes, sir. Well, the 10 days were in country. The 21 days can't start until they're actually out of the affected area. So the 21-day monitoring period will take place.
Which means they could be traveling on day 11 and no longer isolated.
They could be traveling on day 11, but they will.
Which would result in additional exposure.
No, sir. We will try to limit their exposure prior to their departure, but the 21-day timeline won't start until they're back in the United States.
Well, my time is out, but I want to indicate I am highly skeptical. The American public is worried. I believe these need to be revised. The Ohio delegation sent to CDC, they believe theirs need to be revised. The American public is concerned that people who are exposed are having too much contact with the American public and raising the risk to the United States citizens. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Thank you.